Hey guys! Alright, I am going to show you how I kind of do my junk journals. This is my first one that I made. I made it out of a cracker box, and you know it's sturdy enough. I folded the edges in. I don't know if you can see. Yeah, I folded the edges, the bottom and the top in, and it just gave it a little bit more sturdiness, but mainly I just tried it using to do my stitching, practice. I bought a huge amount of paper at a garage sale that was all pretty old stuff, and I just didn't know what all I was going to do with it, and I watched Jen of Eve, and basically did a book just like she did. I mean, exactly like she did. The center of the book is a envelope, and you can see the stitching, the knot in the inside that hides all the stitching. But I did just a huge one. I mean, it's pretty bulky. So that's basically what I'm going to show you how to do. And then I just spritzed it. It's just covered with brown paper. So I've made I tweaked a little bit. You can see my pencil lines that I did for my holes and that kind of stuff. But anyway, so I'm going to kind of walk you through doing this. Now, I have made this. It's 2 layers of boxes. The first one is that big box, kind of like a big milk carton full of the crackers, the little fish crackers, and it's got metallic on the inside. So I did that first, cut it to the size I wanted, and wrapped it with this just brown paper. Now you can use paper sack. You can use you could even use just some of your cardstock or designer series paper, just anything. And I just put Mod Podge all over it and laid it down and Mod Podge the insides. I folded the corners over and then glued them down, and then put the top and bottom and the sides in. Then I took another box and I cut a strip that fit inside my 2 folds of my spine, so it fit inside that, and then 2 other pieces. The second box that I used was not as wide as the book that I cut, and that's okay. You know, it's a junk journal, so it doesn't really matter. And I Mod Podged those together, and then I wrapped it with paper again. And as you can see, this has got very little play in it. It's like almost as strong as a chipboard piece would be. So at this point, because I know that in between we're going to be able to see the signature, the spine here in between the signatures, I'm going to put this piece of paper in. This is just I think it's Bo Bunny timepiece or something, but it's just one of my scraps. And I'm going to lay this down with some glue. Just going to use my Scotch Quick Dry, and I'm just going to I'm not going to worry too much about the edges. The top and bottom edge I do want to have pretty well glued down in the middle. But once I get the book done, I will put inside covers on. And I'm just going to rub that down. Not going to worry too much about all this. I do need to get a rag here. Let's get this. Just kind of rub that down. Not that top and bottom especially, to make sure it's laying down, because that part will show. The rest of it won't really show. And I'll find my, and just kind of give it a little crease. Well, let's see. Okay, so that, it's because this side is a lot wider. There we go. See? No problems, just solutions. And just get that to lay there. Put a little more glue on this puppy. Again, I want those edges to lay down pretty nice. Let's get some glue on there. Yeah, it's because this is so wide. There we go. Lay it this way. To lay down there. There we go. Okay. So there's that. And remember, these are just like any of the other books. They don't have to, of course now that doesn't want to open up all the way. Okay, there we go. And this side is not going to do it as bad. Try not to hit my well, it's a junk journal and you learn as you go. So I lay this down and just see if I can get that to lay across there. I'm not worried about this. It's a junk journal and I'm learning, but because I didn't take these second pieces all the way to the end, it wanted to bubble right there. But it's not going to mess up my book at all. I'm fine with that. This is all wrinkled. It doesn't matter if this is wrinkled as well. But anyway, so there is that part. This is, now this is two different ways of doing this. I got a sketch pad. This is Artist Loft sketch pads, and it's a pretty nice paper. This is the paper just by itself. It's a very nice paper. I like how where I ripped it out of the book, it's got a little bit of a ripped edge. It's kind of, I like that. The other edge did not have a rip. So I flipped them so that every other page, this is the nice cut end that was at the bottom of the book. So I've got it where I have flipped them so every other page is the ripped side. And then this one's nice, this one's ripped. Let's see if I can put a piece of paper so you can see what I'm talking about here. See if you can see that. It's just not real smooth. And then this side is just real smooth. So I just kind of flipped them back and forth. But, so I've got two different ways of doing this book. I'm going to do, there's 4 pages. This is a signature, and there's 4 pages in each one of these signatures. And when you go much past that, you're going to end up with the pages starting to stand out too far because they've got to fit into the thinner the paper, the more you can put in. So if it's just copy paper, you could put in more than that. But so you always want to kind of watch for that. But it does make for a really nice look to your pages. It gives them a little bit of worn look, even though it's crisp, clean paper. But as you can see, then this one I have gone through and coffee stained these pages. So they got wet, dried. I did some stamping to them, some splatters. I've gone through and done a little bit, not much. There's like 3 or 4 pockets in this whole thing. Some stamping. I colored a few of the stamps, but for the most part, it's just plain paper, just coffee stained. A few embellishments. Some cut a little bit more than others, but for the most part, there's a few ephemera pieces. This is from Die Cuts with a View paper. The ephemera pieces are all from there as well, but like I said, there's only a few things. To me, a junk journal should not really look like a journal. That's another one of the pockets. And there's one, and then there's that one. But for the most part, it's just the different stains and of the coffee. A few stamps. That's about it. So that's about all I've done. But dry, wet. Huge difference. Huge difference. So it depends on what you're going to want to do with the book. You can see the difference in color from doing coffee stain versus different kind of stain, you know, just the plain paper. So there's that. Now, the other thing that you're going to need, let's see, you're going to need pencil, a pokey tool. You're going to need, you can use a phone book. I used this in one of my other projects I did on video. This is just some corner pieces. I've got one here that I got out of a box, shipping box, and they just were sitting in the corners of the box to reinforce them. And I just took a piece of cardboard and hot glued them together so that it gives me a nice place to poke my holes. So that's what I use. But you could totally use a phone book or just hold it by hand. And you're going to need a template. I went ahead and did my template. Basically, I found my center. You can either use a ruler or you can fold it. And so I've got my center. And then I went an inch down from each edge. And then I found my center of those 2 holes. And, you know, center between these and center between these. So that's my template. So it's a 5-hole piece here. And I'm going to also mark, I'm going to flip this way, and let me first find my center of my spine. Now when you don't put this cover sheet in, it's a lot easier. reinforce this again so I can see where I'm working on. Oop, poked a hole. Doesn't bother me. So this is, let's see, my spine is, let's do it this way. My spine is 1 7/8. Okay, so I'm going to, got my, that's pretty much the center right there. Pretty much my center. So I'm going to use my pencil. I'm going to find my center here. I'm going to come down here. Find my center. And come up here and find my center. Alright, so there we go. So I'm going to make a line, matching these puppies up as best I can. They're not, let's see, is that, let me see here. Let's see how this lines up using this as my guide. So where's my line? Right there. So these two seem to be the better lines to follow. Oops. Okay. So, and I've got 6 signatures, so I'm going to have this line, and then I'm going to go 2 off of this, and 2 off of that. And let me find my center this way. And we are going to be at, see, there is, find my center. So this is basically my center here. So if I line this center up, you can see that I have just about the same amount of space. Make sure I'm on camera here. I have just about the same amount of space here as I do here. So I'm happy with that center point. Happy with that one. And I'm going to double check here. And I'm not real happy with that center line, but it's close enough, so we're good. So I'm going to stick this right, line it up right along. Let me move this in for right now. Let me scooch in here so you can see. So now I have this center mark here, and I have this center mark. I lined this up with this center point. So now I'm going to make a mark where these pages have their marks so that I get this transferred there. So now I'm going to make sure I'm on here. So now I have, let's see if you can see this. Now I have all of my marks. I've got one there, and there, and there, and there, and there. So I've got all my marks that matched up with my page. Get it lined up so you can see that. Okay, so I just kind of lined my page up on that line and made the marks with the holes that I have with my template. Okay, so that's that. And now I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to line the 6 up on the line. So there's my line, and it lines right up with the 6, both top and bottom. If you don't have the centering ruler, it doesn't really matter. You can use, you know, any of the rulers are going to work. And so I'm going to do these at a, let's see, if I do, I need to do, I have 1 here in my center, and I have 6. So I need, and this is actually a little off center. So I'm going to need 3 this way and 2 this way. And that's probably going to be the way I do it because, let's see, is that the way, let's say if I line this up here, I've got, yeah, so we're going to do 3 this way and 2 this way. So, you know, it's all going to work. I'm going to do, let's see, if I do 1, 2, 3, that's going to get me right to the very edge of my, yeah. So we're going to do 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here, and 1 here, and 1 here, and 1 here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's it. And that gets me to the edge because that's my edge right there. So there's my 6. So I've got the intervals. I'm going to go now to this one. And I'm not going to make the circles. I'm just going to make some lines here. And I'm going to do the same one on this one. 2 behind it and 3 in front of it. And then go up here and do the same thing again. And I hope that you're able to see what I'm doing. I think I've got it close enough that you can see what I'm doing here. And then this top one here. 2 behind. I know with this paper, sometimes you're not going to be able to see my marks. The busyness of the paper up there. And then I'm just going to line everything up. I'm going to back off a little bit now. A little bit more. There we go. So now I'm just going to line up these lines. I got to use my other side. Line up these lines. And I don't have to make a mark all the way up here because I'm just going to be using this. And this is going to be where my signatures are going to be sewn into. I'm just getting myself a nice little line to make sure that I've got everything pretty much lined up. Because I want my threads to be straight. So you don't actually have to do this part. I just want to make sure that I'm actually working with a good lineup. You could just measure it, but there we go. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. So these are where I'm going to put my marks for, and I'm just reinforcing where I'm going to put my holes, and then I'm going to bring my paper back and I'm going to make sure they all still line up. I'm just kind of eyeballing it right now. And if I have to erase one, I'll erase it. So now I'm just going to set up my paper and put my lines, match up my hole marks, and this one has to come down more. So I'm going to erase, there we go, and line up the next one here, and this one has to come down a little bit. Because you want these to line up beautifully. Now this one should, because this is what I used as my marker, and I'm moving to the next one here. And those line up nicely. Let's get this one over on the line a little bit more. This one up a little bit. There we go. Line this one up. Okay, that's good, that's good, that's good. And this one has to come down a little bit more. So this is the only thing that you really need to take the time to do on this, is make sure that you've got your holes lined up, because that just means that you're not going to be ripping your paper if it's not working out just right. Because this is not super strong paper, and if this hole doesn't line up with this hole, then you're going to end up pulling the stitch and ripping that paper some. So anyway, now we're going to take our pokey tool and we're just going to poke through these holes. And you just want to make sure that you're poking straight down. And I've got several layers to go through, but I want to make this a good hole. So I'm going to finish this and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I'm back. I made the holes in here and I went back through on the back side and made sure that I had them all the way through on both sides. It's just going to make it easier as you go. Because I centered it and I have 6 signatures, it didn't center it here, which is okay with me, because that leaves me, I've chosen to do this as my front. I can put myself a pocket in here where I can slide myself up a pen or whatever, or papers or whatever to use. But if you wanted it to be centered across here, then you would find your center and then put the holes on either side of your center. But I'm cool with doing this. You saw how to do the process. You just have to think it through on how you're going to do it. But I've got an 1/8 of an inch here and almost a 1/2 inch, or I'd say 1/4 of an inch here and about a 1/2 inch on this side. So I'm just going to use this as my front, and I'm going to make it a happy happenstance, and I'm going to create myself like a extra thick little pocket where I can put a pad of paper or keep my pens or whatever I want to do over here. So the sky's the limit. This is your junk journal. You can do it however you want to do it. But you saw how I found the center mark, and then I would just do 3 on each side of the center mark so that it's centered in the book, if that's going to be important to you. I'm just playing, having some fun here, so it's not that big of a deal for me. So, did that, erased my pencil marks. Now the next thing that you're going to need is you're going to need like a nice tapestry needle. not extremely pointy. You could use those round ones that like actually tapestry needles. This does have a point to it, but it's not one of those super sharp things, so I'm not going to kill myself with it. But it's got a wide enough. Let me get a little closer here. It's got a let's see. It's got a hole to it that is going to fit the cording. Now, they have said, you know, a waxed cord. I'm not all that worried about it. I have used this. This is really strong stuff. It is like a twisted thread that does not unravel real easily. It is super strong. It's got some good thickness to it, like a good cording does. And I'm just going to get this into my needle. And I do not know where my needle threader is, because I need one of those, because I'm blind as a bat. Blind as a bat, I tell you. Even with my glasses on, I'm blind as a bat. So I'm fixing to throw this across the room. Okay, let's get a fresh cut on here. I thought I had it in here, but, oh, there it is. Yay! These to me were, I mean, the best thing since sliced bread. Yay. That's worth its weight in gold. That's an oldie. Oldie but a goodie. Okay, when you're figuring out how much cording, I've had different people say just leave it on the string. I've had different people say, oh, you know, you do that 3 times the. I just leave it. It's on a roll. It rolls off pretty easily. I pull myself out a good bit of it so that I'm not getting, you know, it's not fighting me and stuff. But so that's ready to go. Now we're going to get one of our signatures ready. Now, again, this has 4 pages to it. Got my little corner piece, phone book, whatever's going to work for you, my pokey tool. I've got 6 of these. You can use clothespins, binder clips, whatever you've got. Whatever you've got, you can use to hold these together. But basically, I use a clothespin and a binder clip. So I've got my binder clip. I get these where I've got them straight, and all the pages are deep and together. And I put my binder clip on there. Okay, so that holds them in place that way. Then I put it on my little pokey tool thing. Now, if you have a phone book, you won't be able to do it this way. You're just going to stick it down in there and run it along the edge. I've got my template. I'm lining my template up with my pages, and then I take and I put this like this. So now I've got it where the pages aren't moving. It is down into the center of my jig, and it's not going to move. And then I just take and I push straight down into there, and I get a nice hole. And I want to try and stay into the center of the fold in the page, and in the center of my hole of my template here. And I just get my 5 holes, excuse me, my 5 holes poked into my signature. So you go through and you do that with all your signatures. And then you sew in your signature. Now I leave my binder clip, and if you want to, you can put a second binder clip on here just to make sure that, excuse me, my allergies are giving me a fit today. Just so you can make sure you're holding the pages together. And I'm going to go ahead and sew this into my book just so you can see how I do it. Now, I drew this little graph, I don't know, but you start at the inside of the signature, and you go in, and you'll see me do it, but you're going to go in, and you're going to, you can go either up or down. I just drew it one way or the other. You'll go, then you can go all the way through the book. You're going to line up with the center of your signature to the first center hole. So you're going to line up, get my needle here. You're going to start with your center hole of your signature with the center hole in your book, and you go through. So that's how you're going to start. So then you're going to come around and you're going to go through the next hole and through your book and through your signature, and then you're going to go through the top hole through your signature through your book. Then you come back around and go back into this second hole. Then you're going to come all the way down to the second to the last hole and go through your signature and through your book, and then come around through the back of the book and up through the signature. Back around again, and then you're going to come back in the same hole you started. You're going to come from the back in, and both strings are going to be on the same side, and then you're going to tie your knot. Okay, so let's go ahead and go through that. So you're going to, your book and your signature, and the first ones are, the first holes are a lot easier than the last holes because you're already working through the same spots that you've already worked through once. So you're going to pull this through. Let me move my scissors and things out of the way. So you're going to pull this through and keep your cording. Then I'm going to come up, and I've got my, let me get closer here. Okay. So there's my first one, my center in my signature through my center hole in my book, in the spine. Then I'm coming back up, and you're going to get this. It's kind of hard when I've got this tripod sitting in my way, and then I can't see on to begin with. And that's going to come in through here. And you're going to pull that through. Now, when you're pulling this, you always want to pull it the way the string is moving. So we're going to be moving the string this way, so we're going to be pulling it whatever way is going to keep the paper from tearing. So right now I'm pulling straight on. Once you start getting to the point where you've got more of these stitches in here, then you're going to be pulling the page a little, pulling the string a little differently. Now I'm coming down through the center of my signature on the very upper hole, through the upper hole of the book, come out the back, and pull your cording. Okay, and then we're gonna try and keep it taut. Not completely tight, but taut. We're going to go back into this second hole. We're going to come through. You definitely do not want to hook the cord that you've got going through this. You want to not get that. So I'm going to push my needle in a little bit. And you will not have nearly the problem I'm having because I'm trying to keep it in camera and see what the heck I'm doing here at the same time. If you need to pull some of the excess out of the string, if it gets too long, just grab hold of it and pull. So I've got it in the book, and now I'm trying to find the hole in my signature and get it back up through there. And again, without actually catching that, you don't want to sew through the cord. That makes that won't allow the cord to slide. So you don't want to catch that cording. Okay, so did I catch the cording? Yes, I did. I did catch the cording, so that makes it not want to slide. So I'm going to take this off and I'm going to pull it back out. Yeah, you catch that cording and it's just not going to work. So that's the only thing you really have to watch out for when you're sewing your signatures in, is that you're not really getting that cording hooked up. Okay. There we go. Easy as pie with that little machine. Okay, so let's try this again. I'm going to go in the same hole, and I think if you kind of let that string get longer, it's going to be easier not to catch it than trying to keep it taut going in that direction. I'm going to pull and make sure that I'm actually, yes. So I did not get it that time. And then I'm going to go in through my hole. Oops. There we go. Okay. And if you didn't get it, it's gonna be nice and smooth. There we go. Okay. And I can pull all the excess. Now, we're going to skip this hole and we're going to go down to this one. I'm going to go through the signature, through the book, out the back, there, and I'm pulling this way because that's the way that the string is coming from. And the further on you get, let me make sure I can get here. Okay, so now I'm going in to my book, and at this point you're hoping that you're actually having that signature line up. I'm just trying to feel it with my finger here, but it's not going to work. Because when I flip it over and I have this tripod, I can't see diddly. So I'm just going to have to rough it here, you guys. Okay, so got this. Going to get my hole in my signature and put it through. And I hope you can see this. So now I'm pulling this one through. Okay, and my cord is coming this way, so that's the way I'm pulling it. Now I'm going to go through this signature, which should be lined up right into your hole. And you just want to make sure that on the other side coming out that you're not hooking your cord. Pull it through. Get my tail out of there. And you can see you've got some danglies here. You're just going to pull that center cord to tighten it up. And you're going to kind of pull it down because your stitching is going in that direction. I've got a little bit, I'm just giving it a good pull because I had a little bit too much play. And then this one, my stitch is coming from here, so I'm going to pull in that direction and tighten this one up. Okay? You're not putting a death grip on it, but you're definitely giving a nice little pull. And now I'm going to hopefully come up right through the center without hitting my cord. Kind of trying to pull that away. Come up through my book, up through my signature, and leave my cord. Did I get my cord? I don't think so. I don't think so. I'll have to take it out if I did. Okay, so now we should be able to, this one I just pulled up, I know came from this direction. This one is from that direction, so I'm going to pull it that way and just tighten them down. I'm going to give it a little pull. I'm going to make sure that my stitches, see, I've still got a little bit of play in there. I want to try and get out from this bottom section. So the one that my needle is attached to has come from that direction. So that's the one I'm going to pull, and I'm pulling the same direction as my stitches came from. And there I've got them nice and tight now. Okay, so now I take my, well, I kind of leave my needle in so I know which direction I'm supposed to pull. This comes from the bottom of the book, this comes from the top of the book. So that's the way I'm going to pull them, like this. But only by leaving my needle on do I know which one of these is which one I'm pulling which way. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my cord. I'm going to pull it one more time, and I'm going to put a knot in there. 2 or 3 is all you need. There we go. And then I'm going to clip it. And I don't mind having the little ends. If you do, you could do like the book that I did where I learned how to do it, where Genevieve had showed you. It is inside the envelope, and basically all you do is I took this envelope apart, and so this flap was loose, and I sewed it on, tied it, and then I glued the flap, you know, remade the envelope and glued the flap closed. So now I have an envelope, but it hides the knot. You can go on Genevieve. I will try and put a link on this video so that you can go on and check on how she did that. Let me come back out again now. Oh, wrong way. Sorry. So there is, let me just take these off. There's my first signature done. And the little tie, a little, without, it's not got, you can see the little pieces there. That doesn't bother me in the least. And there's my signature in my book. And I'm quite pleased with that. I'm going to go ahead, and my stitching is nice and tight, and it's not got any tails. You can do it the opposite way if you want to have string here, or you can start it up here, or you can have it wherever you start your hole with 5 knots, wherever you, I mean with 5 spots that you're sewing in, wherever you, whichever end you start your hole, you will end on that hole and you will tie it. So if you want your strings to be up top here, then you would just start and go down and come back up. If you want your threads to be in the center here, however you want it to be done, that's, you know, that's basically how it works. You just map it out. Just figure out where you want your threads to be, and then map it out and make sure that it's going to work for you. That's all you have to do. So it just takes a little time and thought. And now I've got, you know, the starting of my book. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these signatures that get the holes poked in them and get them sewn in, and then I'll be back.